So, despite dry conditions this morning, a now different kettle of fish altogether for our racing Hondas. And they line up one by one staggered grid. And we'll go through the grid very shortly in a moment's time. But this is going to be quite a fascinating affair, given that we've got Will Self slightly out of position, starting back in 9th on the grid. Yeah, the other man who won a race at Cadwell Park, Kevin Talbot, in the bright green DC5 Honda Integra, will be alongside him on the front row. And also a chance for a bit of redemption for Philip Wright, the 2023 champion. Didn't quite get a good result in race 1, had to pick his way back through the order in race 2 at Cadwell. And he'll get an opportunity in Class A here to really see if he can strut his stuff from the front row. Also, cars and the mixers will go through the full grid in a moment's time. I've been keen to see what Liam Collins can do, the current qualifying and race lap record holder around here, after setting those records last year. He starts in 3rd. And then the man who was quite a sensation at Cadwell Park, Bob Barron, in the highest of the two kilted K-Swaps Civic EGs. He's the silver car that will start, in 4th position. Led for half the race from the partially reverse grid pole position and was on course for a good result, but then just locked up and made a mistake going into the top of the circuit at Park Corner. And because of that, that lost him a few places, and he even dropped off the podium as a result. So the green flag is off, and let's go through the grid then for race 1, round number 3 of Racing Hondas 2025. Pole position goes to Phil, no, it should be Kevin Talbot on the front row of the grid. It should be Kevin Talbot who's on the grid on pole position. Philip Wright's alongside him. Then it's Liam Collins and Bob Barron on the 2nd row of the grid, followed by Tommy Knight and Dan Thackeray. It's a bit odd, I think we're missing Kevin Talbot, but we'll go through them in the order we have them. So Dan Thackeray will then start on the 3rd row of the grid alongside Tommy Knight. Then row 4 should be David Buki in the EK Honda Civic and Ryan Cunningham, the defending champion. Then back in 9th on the grid we should have Will Self, who set pole position in qualifying but has that 8th place grid penalty. Spencer Fortag is alongside him on the 5th row of the grid. We should mention that it's a Class B pole position for Dan Thackeray in 6th. Then it's Rick O'Connell, who hopefully is there after his car had an issue in both free practice when he pulled up on the approach between Starkeys and Schwantz, and then again when the car slowed up down the back straight, the Dunlop straight towards the Robert chicane, and that brought out the red flag. He will then, on the 6th row of the grid, if he's there, alongside James Alford in the number 11 EK Honda Civic. Row 12 is where we find our single race entry, our guest driver, Nicholas Allett, making his first ever start in a car. He will be in his EP3 Honda Civic in 13th. He's alongside Sammy Milam, who we just heard speaking to Charlie before the race start here. Next up on the 8th row of the grid, Lewis Barker. He has a 2-place grid penalty, following also an incident that he had at Cadwell. He's alongside, on the 8th row, Fraser McNeil, who had a really nightmare session, ran off the road in the gravel at qualify in free practice that brought out the red flag midway through. He'll be back on the 8th row. Row 9 is Sam Linsner in car number 30, and James Kembry, one of the Otter Motorsport cars. New to the championship this year, that team. Followed then, behind them on the 10th row of the grid, Harry Greenhill and Duncan Holloway to round out the top 20. And then Luke Crassus-Medu and Matt Rowley, who takes the Class C pole position. He's ahead of Andy Barnes, the man himself who runs Time Attack with his brother Rob. He's in car number 99, the Kent Models liveried Civic FN2. And then the last couple of positions at the back of the grid, we have alongside Andy on the 12th row of the grid, Jackson White, and Callum Houchin in car number 37 is on the grid too, in 25th and last. And as we said, no Owen Diver, sadly. His car is in the paddock, but it looks as though, I'm afraid, the Kinetic Motorsport squad either couldn't get him out on time, or he was due to come back after he had a back injury which kept him out of Cadwell Park. Maybe the back injury has tweaked once again, and maybe he's unable to get out. Either way, it's a shame we don't have him on the grid, but he will be looking to try and possibly come back for the next round at Brands Hatch in a few weeks' time. Now, they've gone on to a second formation lap because the conditions are different enough compared to qualifying earlier on this morning that they are have to going out there for an extra lap to try and get a different feel for the conditions, because of course if they go into it completely blind, having done one formation lap, it's not really going to work out for them. So a second formation lap to fully get adapted to these damp and slippery conditions out there is going to be absolutely key. So just coming through one by one, you'll see they're weaving from side to side to get some more heat and temperature into the tyres, keep the brake pressures up, the brake temperatures up as much as possible. That's going to be key, particularly getting off the line. The cars towards the front of the grid, of course, they're going to be trying to get as much temperature as possible, because they know that the longer they stay on the grid, whilst everyone else is forming up behind, that the quicker those tyres and brakes are going to start cooling down, which means they could be a bit of a disadvantage by the time they head towards Redgate Corner for the first time. So, of course, this is a 1.9 mile national circuit. And Donington, of course, with a very rich history in motorsport. Of course, it's been running races most famously even back pre-war into the mid to late 1930s, when it had the proper old school pre-war Grand Prix cars of Mercedes and DK and Auto Union, and then it was really brought back into life, I think, in about the 1970s, late 1980s, early 1980s, and then since then it's been a long-standing circuit, one of a driver's true favourite. It's fast, it's flowing, particularly on this national circuit, which is 1.9 miles. It certainly does put on quite a performance. The lap record in race here, both for qualifying and the race, is held by Liam Collins. His race lap record was a 1 minute 15.1, which was actually a tenth faster than his qualifying lap record set last year, 1:15.2. So whether or not he could repeat that, I think with the conditions he might not quite get to that lap time, unless it dries out pretty quickly. I think Liam Collins is just trying to get a little bit extra heat into those tyres as he pulls up into his grid spot in front of him. So the cars then make their way back onto the grid, and in terms of watching out for who's who, it's Kevin Talbot in the Jordan 191 inspired livery, the green Honda Integra DC5 with the little blue trim on it in honour of the late great Eddie Jordan. It's in silver and yellow. You can see Phil Wright, 2023 champion. And you've got the almost Batmobile-looking all-black Honda DC2. The silver EG9 Honda Civic is in fourth on the grid, and you can't also miss Tommy Knight's car. That's the bright blue EK Honda Civic in fifth position on the grid. And of course, further back on the fifth row, you are also going to have Will Self out of position after he started on pole. To watch him come through from ninth, that's going to be quite exciting. So the last couple of cars getting into position. Watch for the green flag at the back of the field. Once our final car is in position, there it is. It's all calm and quiet until the VTEC kicks in. Stand by for action then. Round 3 of Racing Hondas 2025. All set to get underway. Watch for the red lights. When they go out, it's going to be a sprint down towards Redgate Corner. Talbot on the left, Wright on the right. And we're underway in racing as they slither away from the grid down towards Redgate for the first time. It's a clean getaway from pole for Kevin Talbot. He'll lead the charge down towards Redgate, but it's also split in the middle between, looks like, Dan Thackeray and Phil Wright. Comes Bob Bannon in the centre. Phil Wright will turn in second place. Bannon's up to third, and a cracking start for Dan Thackeray in the Class B Honda Civic EP3. He's up to fourth. So an excellent start from what was, I think, the third or fourth row of the grid, but they now cascade their way down through the Craner curves for the first time. And it's Talbot who leads the way. Wright in second place. Bannon's up to third. Thackeray is fourth and going for third place up the inside of Bannon. This is a cracking start for the championship leader. Dan Thackeray, who leads the point standings after he got 2 impressive Class B victories. He's revelling in these conditions. Up to third place ahead of quite a few of the Class B cars and some of the Class A contenders. Second place, in fact, is now, looks like, Ryan Cunningham, the defending champion. And as you can see on the screen on the camera, it's getting wetter and wetter out there by the moment. Tiptoe their way round through McLean's. You can see there that's Rick O'Connell, who has made it to the start, and the car looks like it's lasting. Through Coppice for the first time. There goes Will Self, and Liam Collins hasn't had a good start either. He's falling backwards. He's now in the clutches of Dave Buki and Spencer Fortag in the number 4 Silver FN2. Off the road's gone 77, Duncan Holloway. That's on the approach to Schwantz curve. But they now tiptoe their way down towards the end of the Robert chicane for the first lap. Oh, there's 2 cars off in the background. That was Fortag and Buki off the road. Buki just about keeps it within the white lines. Fortag has gone exiting stage right, but he rejoins back on the road pretty quickly. So Talbot leads the way at the end of lap number 1 in these ever deteriorating conditions. Right in second place. Dan Thackeray, who leads Class B, is up to third overall. A lightning start from the ex-Civic Cup driver. Bob Bannon, who, remember, is only in his 3rd ever car race, up into 4th position. It's 5th position for Tommy Knight, 6th for Will Self after he started 9th on the grid after his 8th place grid penalty, and already challenging Tommy Knight. Now, last time these two came together, they came to blows, so careful, gents, this time, particularly when it's have to tiptoe around in these tricky conditions. But I'm sure Will Self will have that on his mind. He looks to the outside to try and get a good run to power past Tommy here. Tommy gives him the room, and Will Self easily slots his way up into the top 5 once again. So his next target is going to be his fellow EG racer of Bob Bannon. Quick checking with the classes at the end of lap 1. So Talbot leads overall in Class A from Wright in second place, Barron in third, but it's 4th position in class for Tommy Knight, for Will Self now, who's just passed Tommy Knight in the top 5. For Class B, Dan Thackeray has quite a lead already of about 3 seconds over Ryan Cunningham in second place. As off the road goes Nicholas Allett in his first ever car race. He's got the Revit Motorsport Honda Civic off the road, exiting McLean's. Second in class is Ryan Cunningham, the defending overall Racing Hondas champion. Third is Sammy Milam. Fourth is Lewis Barker, and fifth is Sam Linsner. And then it's Andy Barnes in the lead of Class C's. He's got the better of both Matt Rowling and Callum Houchian. A cracking start from Andy, up to 19th. And he's quite a way away. He's 4 places ahead on the road, ahead of the next best Class C car. But of course, Andy's a guest, so he won't score points. Even though Callum Houchian is in second in the class, he's still first of the point-scoring car, so watch out for him. Just there you see Fraser McNeil in the bright yellow EG Civic. He's really further back. 15th is Fraser, not where he wants to be. And neither, I think, really, is Rico Coddle. He's way back in 20th on the track. So this is going to be not great for him. Here comes Will Self, trying to pull off exactly the same move he did on Tommy Knight. And I don't think Barron was quite as welcoming to let him pass as Tommy Knight was. But another place gained. Will Self is now up into 4th place. 5 places up from where he started. Will Self, who came into the season determined that he was going to challenge for the championship, made that statement completely true off the line with victory in race 1 at Cadwell Park, then had the start line incident in race 2 which scuppered him. So it was a tale of 2 sides that day. Will Self again has had a weekend of 2 sides so far. Was quick in qualifying, took pole, then had that 8th place drift penalty, and now in these tricky conditions he's trying to wind his way back up through the order. Next target is going to be Dan Thackeray, who's driving like he's got a Class A car underneath him, but he's absolutely sailing away, no pun intended, in 3rd position. Self is now up to 4th, Barron down to 5th, Knight down to 6th, but Barron and Knight are still in the top 5 in class. There goes Ryan Cunningham in car number 1. Dave Bucke also in his first race of the season and his first race in that EK Civic, doing quite a grand job in 8th position. The former Civic Cup and Audi TT Cup racer. Of course, runs his own team these days, Kinetic Motorsport. Of course, he had 2 other cars here set to race this weekend. That's Sammy Milam, who is in the race and is currently in 12th position and running 4th in Class B. And also set to have Owen Divert, but his car didn't even make it out for practice or qualifying earlier on. So sadly, his car is sat in the paddock with not much to do. It's his favourite passing spot, Will Self, was round the outside he goes. And that's another place gained, up the inside and past Dan Thackeray to pick up 1 more spot into 3rd. Let's look at lap times. His last lap time was a 1:25.637. Now that compared to Kevin Talbot, who has a 1.7 second lead up the road. As off the road has gone Luke Crassus Menu, and that was both, I think, Jackson White and Rico Coddle going past. So getting tricky out there for some drivers. But the fastest lap of the race went to Kevin Talbot across the line. He set a 1:25.307, and he is now got a 1.7 second advantage. Another new fastest lap for Talbot. But I think that Wright's trying to go with him. In fact, new fast lap goes to Will Self, so it was a 1:23.842. Talk about flying along in these conditions. They're about, at the moment, compared to Self's pace, 8 or 9 seconds off, of course, lap record pace. They're not going to be the absolute fastest compared to where we were in qualifying. But Self has got a pretty good car underneath him here as he winds his way down the hill. 4 laps in the books. Onto lap 5. Wipers going... Wipers ablaze as he turns through the old hairpin. Little twitch as he managed to try and rotate the car on corner entry. And interesting enough, again, Dan Thackeray, this is pure pace from him in a Class B spec car. Credit to him, he was one of the front runners in the Civic Cup in 2023. Got so close to the title and had an engine failure in the final race of the season, which handed it to, instead, to, I forget the driver's name, I'm sure it will come to me in a second. But he lost out on the title thanks to that, but he was certainly in contention to possibly even take it had he not retired. So good effort from Dan to put that car as high as he did, and I'm sure that Charlie and co are going to be quite impressed when they go to interview him if he continues on this pace. There is Andy Barnes in Class C. And he might have to face Charlie's microphone if he stays where he is. He's got quite a good performance in so far. He's actually up now to 17th overall. And again, bear in mind, he's in a different class to James Kembry. He's revelling in these slightly damp conditions, and alongside the man who's also got a novice cross on the back. He's trying to draw himself alongside the Honda Motorsport EP3, but there's not enough pace in a straight line. And he might beat him under brakes, though, squirming around a little bit. And look at that, he forced himself to the inside. There's a little bit of argy-bargy on the exit, and Kembry's not allowing the boss of time attack any route whatsoever. You might be the person who runs the championship, but I ain't letting you pass that easy. So now they're going to be side by side, and he might have a bit of backup in a minute, because right behind him here is Harry Greenhill. He's in the Class B car, in fact. Oh, as Andy Barnes gets very sideways and runs wide on exit, and all the hard work trying to get past James Kembry is now gone to nothing for the moment. And Harry Greenhill says, "You're going to make it that easy, boss? I'll just get past you every single time." So there he goes. Now then, for the lead, it's now closed up because Phil Wright has brought the gap down last time by about half a second, of course. Did a 1:23.8. Now as he looks up the inside, he's really closed in on Kevin Talbot, putting the Integra under pressure. Now it's side by side for the lead. A drag race down the back straight towards Robert Chicane. Talbot goes defensive on the inside line, but he knows he'll be offline for the second part. You can compromise your entrance into the first part of Robert Chicane to get a better run off it. This is certainly helping Wright, who took the proper racing line. Now they sprint back down towards Redgate with now 7 laps in the books. Or 6, in fact. They're on to lap 7. Side by side almost, down towards Redgate. In terms of lap time, they're going to have to watch behind because Will Self is on a charge. It was a 1:24.3 for Talbot, 1:23.8 for Wright, a 1:22.8 for Will Self, as Wright now tries to look up the inside and put himself level through the crane of curves just before at Hollywood. You're a brave man in these conditions if you want to go side by side, and Kevin Talbot's car wiggling around as he tries to get it stopped and turned in for the old hairpin. And Will Self is going to loom large in their mirrors here. And this is 3 very different cars, you can see. The DC5 Integra, the EP3 Civic, and the EG Civic. 3 different, I won't say generations. Of course, the Integra and the Civic EP3 are from essentially the same generation of car, if you like. Whereas the EG Civic is kind of 2 generations removed. It was kind of before the EK, back in the early to mid-1990s. About roughly, 91 to 94, 95, that car existed, maybe a little bit older. But Will Self is certainly pushing hard. And this is what we wanted to see. 3 of the fastest men in the championship battling over the race victory. They've only got 5 minutes to do it here. And Will Self, of course, at the moment, unless he can find his way through easily enough, will have to run at their pace. Right, looks so much better off the corner in the second part, but he finds this big green and blue Integra staring right in front of him, giving him no option whatsoever to try and get past. Down towards Redgate. They're coming up on lap traffic now. This could play a factor. That could get very nervy as Phil Wright looks to send it round the outside at Redgate corner. Has he got the grip to get around the outside? He just about gets it done. Yes, he has. Brilliant stuff from the 2023 champion. Phil Wright hits the front with a gutsy move right around the outside. In the wet, to be fair, that is the better line to take on the outside line. If you're on the racing line, he gets damp and slippery on the rubber. But Phil Wright absolutely sailed past the pole sitter Kevin Talbot. And now Talbot has a rear mirror full of Will Self right behind him as they get past Duncan Holloway's ailing number 77 Civic, which is in Class B. And Wright taking the wider approach to find the grip and find the traction through the outside of McLean's. Now it's Will Self's turn to put the pressure on, and Talbot again doesn't need to go to the inside this time. He doesn't think that Self's that close enough, but I'm just going to watch the traction here. How much grip has Self got to try and get past? But Talbot saw that coming. He parked the car right on the inside of the corner on the apex. Remember, you can vote for your Lucas Oil top driver if you want to by using the QR code. I think these 3 are certainly going to be contenders. In fact, Will Self, remember, coming from 9th on the grid, there's still a chance he could win this race, but he has to get past Kevin Talbot in order to make that happen. So 3.5 minutes to go or so on the clock. That's now 8 laps in the books. And here comes Will Self then to the outside to try and make Kevin Talbot. And Talbot got done once round the outside. Is he going to get done twice? The answer is, well, maybe. Round the outside goes Will Self. And he might just get the traction here to get past him. Puts 2 wheels on the curb, but it's not going to stop him. And Kevin Talbot, once again, thinks not again. He tries to go side by side, but Self just slots in front. And that is second place for the man that started 9th on the grid. Richie starts on pole, and Talbot comes back at him up the inside into the old hairpin. But there's no room to get past. And through he goes. Whilst it's happening, I'll quickly mention the rest of the classes because, of course, they do exist. Dan Thackeray, currently in 5th position, leads Class B from Ryan Cunningham and Sam Linsner. I'll look at the rest of that one on top of that. It's then Sammy Milam in 4th, Lewis Barker in 5th, and Spencer Fortag in 6th. And the Class C battle, Andy Barnes still leads that one. That is Andy Barnes who leads the way with quite a lead on Matt Rowling in 2nd place and Callum Houchin in 3rd. So we can't forget the other classes in the mix. This is where the action is, though, because Will Self is starting to charge off after the race leader. He's put a couple of car lengths on Talbot. He's going to have 2 more laps to try and close him in here. So, the 2023 champion and the man who declared at the start of the season that he would fight for the championship are about to go toe-to-toe I think for the first time in this championship. Across the line they go. 9 laps completed. I think 2 more to go at this rate. And Will Self looking at his time. His last lap was a 22.8 compared to a 23.3. Not even that being a personal best of Phil Wright is going to stop Will Self here. Down the Abbott, down through past Hollywood. Into the Craner curves. Wipers still going 10 to the dozen as they wind their way through right and then left. Bring the car back to the driver's left-hand side. Pitch it in through the old hairpin. So easy to run wide or go over the curbs here, as we've seen so many times before in so many different forms of motorsport. We've got a real battle on our hands brewing here. Will Self is just about closing in. This could be quite a fiery battle for the lead with a lap and a half to go. How much more grip and pace does Will Self have to put one over the 2023 champion? Under brakes, back towards Coppice, and there's no inside look for Will Self. He gets a little sideways as he tried to pitch the car in on the apex, but the wider line taken by Wright has given him more traction. Look at the punch he got off the corner. He's pulled another car length again on Will Self, and I wonder if that's possibly hampered him and put him in a bit more complicated position with now just under a minute to go. And 1 more lap of the Donington Park National Circuit to go. I think Talbot's also closed in behind him too, not too far away. So across the line they go. Last lap of this first race of the day. And what does Will Self have? Anything left in the tank here to close in? The lap time was pretty even. They both did 123.2. In fact, all 3 of the top 3 did a 123.2. The fastest of those 3 by a fraction was Will Self. Down Hollywood, through the Craner curves for the final time. And Will Self has got to keep edging closer and closer, corner by corner. Just following straight in Wright's wheel tracks as he turns out of the old hairpin. Now back on the power. There's some back markers here. I think that's Callum Houchin in the way. So how will these two negotiate it? Callum stays out of the way. It's a good driver from Callum. Well done. And again, wider approach for Will Self, trying for that undercut and the tighter line off the corner. Gets a good punch off it. Gets good traction off of McLean's. He's getting close. He's good through Coppice as well. And if he can stay close here, there's got to be a chance he could try and look up the inside. I think he tried to go up the inside through Coppice, didn't make it work. And again, Wright's car worked a little bit better off the corner through Coppice, down towards the Robert chicane for the final time. Unless there's one banzai bingo send down the inside from Will Self, I can't see it happening. And as the skies start to brighten a little bit more here at Donington Park National, despite Will Self's great efforts from 9th, it's not going to deter the 2023 champion. Up towards the checkered flag will come Phil Wright, and he will take victory in race 1 of the day. He is delighted, slaps the roof of the EP3 Civic. He takes victory in race 1 of the day at Donington Park for Racing Hondas. Will Self only 0.4 of a second behind him in 2nd place, and the pole man Kevin Talbot will come home in 3rd. Bob Barron takes 4th position. Good effort from him. I think that matches his result, was close to his result from Cabell Park in race 2. Dan Thackeray, what a dominant drive that was. He takes a commanding Class B victory. He is 5th overall, just only 17-18 seconds off the lead, only just ahead of Tommy Nice in the EG Civic. David Buki takes 7th place. Ryan Cunningham will come through to take 8th overall and 2nd in Class B. Good drive from Ryan. It's 9th for James Alford, and 3rd in Class B goes to Sam Linsner. So good effort from him. He'll be delighted with that. Good effort from Sam to get through. It's then 11th for Lewis Barker, 12th for Fraser McNeil, 13th for Spencer Fortag. That gives him a top 5 finish in Class B. And in Class C, flash of the headlights, Boss has done it. Andy Barnes takes victory in Class C. So that will certainly be good for him. He's single round entry, so remember he doesn't score points. So the actual maximum points for the class will go to Matt Rowling when he comes across the line shortly. Here's Rick O'Connell, who seems to have made it throughout the race without any mechanical issues for his car after problems in pre-practice and qualifying. And across the line behind Luke Crassus-Menu will come the man who will score the points victory, if you like, for Class C. That is Matt Rowling, and Jackson White will come through, I think, as our last runner to take the flag. So, who knew a bit of rain and a bit of damp condition could spice things up a little bit. Great battles up and down the order. Lots of action for everyone to digest. And Charlie will be down there in Parc Fermé as the leaders already making their way down to pit lane. That's how quickly they got round. So, the results from race number 1. The 2023 champion on top of the podium. Phil Wright gets back to winning ways and he wins by 0.4 of a second from Will Self, who drove superbly in the damp conditions to go from 9th to 2nd and just missed out on a victory. Kevin Talbot, the pole man, started on P1, comes home in 3rd. Bob Barron in his only 3rd ever car race finishes in 4th, and Dan Thackeray with a commanding Class B victory gets 5th place overall, a brilliant effort in the EP3, only 18 seconds off the lead. Tommy Knight finishes 6th, Dave Bucchi in his first race in the EK Civic comes home in 7th place and 6th in class, but it's Ryan Cunningham, the defending champion, he is 8th and 2nd in Class B, and James Alford and Sam Linsner, who's on the podium in Class B, finishing in 10th. Lewis Barker is 11th, Fraser McNeil will be a bit disappointed with 12th compared to his teammate up in the top 5, then Spencer Fortag and Harry Greenhill rounded out the top 14. That's then followed by Andy Barnes, who took a commanding Class C victory, although he's a guest so he won't score points. He is ahead of Sammy Milam, between James Kembry, Nicholas Alley, who had a couple of spins, Rick O'Connell, whose car has now survived after issues from practice and qualifying, Luke Crassus-Medu, Matt Rowley, who will take the points, inverted commas, victory in Class C, being a point scorer, then Jackson White, Callum Houchin and Duncan Holloway. We actually lost Liam Collins at some point, so sadly the lap record holder did not make it to the flag and retired roughly around about halfway through the race. So that's a shame to see. He'll have a task to try and get back up through the order from the back of the grid, provided all is well. He can get the number 6 DC2 Integra repaired for race 2 later on this afternoon, which will be our final track action of the day after we've had the super attack for our 3 collectives of time attack runners.